The distance between well 42 and 41 is the longest distance between any of the wells on the Canning Stock route. This part of the track also has the most dunes and supposedly some of the more difficult dunes. However, with correct tire pressure we really had no issue there. Well 41. The water in the well can be a bit brown. However, that staining is caused by the Melaleuca scrub, which is growing around the clay pan, and does not cause any issues beside the color. Beautifully restored. And not too deep. Water. Yeah, just had a shower here at the well. So, fresh water. Here was my shower. The bucket was full. But that is pretty much everything I used. We had to hurry up with our shower as we heard the Land Rover Club coming in. They're easy to recognize because each vehicle announces the clearing and cresting of each dune. On well 41 we also saw the only dingo I believe we saw on the whole trip. We heard quite a few but didn't really see any but this. We had a chat with the guys from the Land Rover Club, which were lovely people, and made our way towards the next well. Well 40, close to where Tobin was killed, and there's moist in there, hard to see, but keep in mind a lot of the native wells were 3, 4, 5 meters underground, and they were accessed by tunnels which the Aborigines dug and then crawled in to retrieve the water. This is an image taken by Snell's construction party in 1929 when they made contact with a group of indigenous people. Next to well 40 is Mick Tobin's grave. He was a member of Canning's exploration party and the most sympathetic to the indigenous people. When they saw a native, Mick Tobin approached the native, disregarding all his shouting and his raised spear, and was then speared by the native. However, Tobin managed to raise his gun and shoot Mungkututu in return. As I mentioned in the previous episode, the treatment by Canning's party of the indigenous people was very questionable to say the least. And the Royal Commission was established to look into this. However, the Royal Commission eventually acquitted Canning of any wrongdoing. However, the abhorrent treatment of the indigenous people by quite a few of the earlier explorers is pretty well documented. In April 2019, the rangers from Gunawardji restored Mungkututus gravestone. Tobin Lake. Here we're crossing Lake Tobin, again one of the many lakes which hardly ever have water. We also passed some decent sized termite hills and had to jump out to investigate. One of the dunes which seems to have caused a few problems for some people, as there was a long run-up strip at the bottom, and the dune itself had some pretty deep holes where people did not stop and spin their wheels. A beautiful camp between the desert oaks. Frank, good tip. Thank you. Removing Dave's rear wheel carrier because the design is good for the city or for normal driving, but for the Canning all the red dirt goes in there and it clogs up and then makes it quite difficult to open. Hopefully with some fresh grease now in, that will do. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, the drifter windscreen cover has really worked well. In the hot days, if I'm parked in the sun because of the solar panel, it pretty much keeps a lot of the heat out, especially with the window slightly down. But it also doubles as my workshop mat. Works as an insulated sleeping mat on very cold nights underneath my normal mat. Yeah. So Stefan, what's going on? We have a little rattle. After an hour of driving in the morning, I noticed a rattle in my engine bay, so we stopped to check that out. It turned out it was my M2K 290 amp alternator, which part of the service routine needs to be tightened and checked every 5,000 Ks, and that was overdue. This was fortunately quickly fixed by adjusting the tensioner. Yeah, well, 39, not too much left. Surprisingly, Canning marked out a 480,000 acre lease with this well in the middle. Not surprisingly, no one ever took up this lease. The well is all silted up, but it still has a bit water in there which could be used in an emergency. And if you imagine a whole day driving, 300 cows through here, then you arrive at the well, and then you got to pull at least probably 2 buckets say per cow, put it into the trough, and that's times 300. Then your horses, camels or whatever you have with you. Yeah, I just got Peter, Nigel, Sue, and sorry, I forgot the other gentleman's name. On the radio, we catching up with them here and there. We're doing detours, and we had a chat last night before we went to camp. And it seems like Nigel, he had that 80 series, which already at Billeluna was sitting very low. It seems like he lost one shock completely, but he fortunately has airbags in, and so he's driving with only one rear shock and the airbag pumped up. He's very game because he wants to do that until the end of the trek. Personally, I probably would have ordered a new shock via satellite phone, which I have. Get it sent to Kunawariji, but he thinks he can drive the rest of the Canning with that, which is, I don't know, another 1400 kilometers left of the most punishing, not difficult, just punishing terrain for your equipment. When Canning first visited this rock hall in 1906, it was dry. However, upon his return from Halls Creek, it was filled with water. When the construction party arrived, they enlarged the water holding capacity by cleaning out the rubble and blasting it deeper. Canning classified this rock hall as semi-permanent. However, some of the long-term Canning stock route travelers have mentioned that they hardly ever seen water in it. I don't think it's too much water at the moment, but someone has dug here. Yeah, there's water. If you dig a little bit, get the shovel out here, you will get water. Yeah, this is absolutely my kind of terrain. I love gorges and the red rock, especially in the middle of nowhere. little cave. That's awesome. With an exit there. It's just before well 37. Beautiful spot here with the desert oaks. The variation of the terrain is just amazing. Very nice. If you don't like flies, the desert may not be the place for you, because there are plenty of them. Or you do what Dave does and wear a fly net, which works well. Besides, the eating is a bit difficult. Well 37, it's also called the Haunted Well, because at least 4 different people are buried there. On the 26th of April 1911, Shoesmith and Thompson and a native stockman Chinaman were murdered here by bush natives. John Vincent McLernan was murdered some 56 kilometers south of here, and his body was brought to the well for burial. A punitive expedition was later launched, and in retaliation 14 bush natives were murdered. The punitive expedition was under the leadership of Sergeant R.H. Pilmer. He was the officer in charge of the Southern Cross police station at the time. To tell the full story would be a bit too long for the video, but Phil Bianchi's book Work Completed Canning has the story in there, so if you're interested you can read it there. A lesser known fact is that some of the best stockmen who rode the canning stock route were actually indigenous people. This image is from 1959, when the last mob was taken down the canning. Towards well 36 we were driving through some beautiful stands of desert oaks in the dunes. Very interesting trees. Unfortunately, the lit fires burn indiscriminately, and we came across quite a few burned stands of desert oaks, which I don't think will ever recover. It is a bit hard to see, but this is one of the dunes where quite a few people got stuck and dug holes, as you can see on the suspension movement. There is still this myth that mud terrain tires, in my case here the BFG KM3, throw a lot of sand and dig yourself in. I've disproved that many times on previous trips, but here it is once more. Mud terrain tires driven with the correct tire pressure are as capable in sand as any all-terrain tire. However, the big advantage is that they are much stronger and far more puncture resistant. In over 150,000 kilometers tough touring on BFG tires, I yet have to have a puncture. We're bypassing well 36 and 35, just for the fact that I think they have been flooded. There's very little left, but it's horrible corrugation supposedly there. So we're taking a detour. However, that detour we're changing corrugation with pinstriping. But yeah, otherwise awesome track, actually probably some of the most challenging dunes, if you can call it challenging. Even had to go in low range once. Yeah, awesome. This trek was certainly not well traveled, and the terrain was pretty punishing. There were tire stakes everywhere, burnt country, and quite some interesting dunes. Yeah, this terrain is crazy. The stakes, how hard that all is. And we have had patches now for kilometers. That's exactly why I tour with 35s and with mud terrain tires. I dare to say any normal tire, smaller tire, and not mud, I don't know how many punctures they would have had. Burned wood is hard as. Good. Deep in. Absolutely punishing the terrain here. All that burnt country that is deep in. That is in. I can't really fault my BFG KM3. The challenges I have thrown at them at the past 25,000 kilometers, and now especially on the canning, I think are hard to replicate for the most regular four-wheel drivers or tourers. And the KM3, like my KM2 previously, haven't missed a beat. The core guard technology, whatever they do there, seems to work very well, because you have seen the stakes we have pulled out of the tires, but nothing actually penetrated into the core.
Oh man, we're just going to make it with the fuel in the main tank. Getting very low.
But we have, what, 20 Ks maybe? 30?
20, 30 Ks, yeah.
Yeah, the corrugation, I said before, horrible. And that well 34 is a bit of a dust bowl. There is water. As we were pretty close to Gunnavarigi now, we decided to camp a little bit past well 34 so that we could drive to Gunnavarigi early in the morning to fuel up. Day 4. David's having relics as well. Day 4, and it was a very long day. Good day, but very long. So I'm going to be having a radix tonight. Thai style wild Alaskan salmon, and because it takes me actually nothing, just boil water and then let it stand for 15 minutes. Then I'm going to continue setting up camp. I think it's going to be, I have the feeling it's going to be cold tonight. So I've got my 2 sleeping bags out. Yeah, see you in tomorrow. In the next episode we will explore Gunnavarigi. We meet the local King Brown at Mujingera Cave and explore further these absolutely stunning countryside. A special thanks to Phil Bianchi, who wrote the book Work Completed Canning and provided me some of the images out of his extensive archive. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. As always, I would greatly appreciate if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video and leave me a comment in the comment section. My YouTube channel is completely self-funded and it takes considerable effort, time and money to create these videos. If you'd like to support me in this, please consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon, where you can donate a small monthly contribution which will help me to cover some of the costs. For these you will receive early access to all of my videos.